All right, what's popping, party people? We're in for another episode of Pop Talk. This is your man, Professor Nils. I'm signing on for Coach Dave, the Casual Rand,
What up, though?
and Boston Jared.
Peace.
Of course, we're gonna jump right into our reactions to this massacre that we saw earlier today, which was, we thought maybe some people thought it might have been the fight of the year. It turned out to be quite the opposite. And we are speaking of Naoya Inoue and his taking on cool boy Stephen Fulton for the WBO and the WBC belts, I believe, at super bantamweight. Now, this was an opportunity for Inoue to take on a name opponent. And I think even some of the black media had kind of criticized Inoue from not fighting some of the better black fighters. And, there was an argument that there's just not a lot of, good black fighters at that low weight class. But
it was slick black fighters.
Slick black fighters
is the term that you heard. Yeah,
slick black
fighter.
So, but this was an opportunity for Inoue to kind of stake his claim as, perhaps the number one pound for pound boxer in the world. So there was some controversy that was leading up to the fight, but this fight, it didn't matter. They had 3 international judges. They wouldn't need it. There was nothing wrong with the hand wraps. Inoue was punching with ferocity, really, really strong combinations. And we'll say that the pundits ate a bit of crow during this. So I will say I was the only one who picked Inoue to win this fight. All the other pundits either picked a late round Stephen Fulton stoppage or a unanimous decision for Stephen Fulton. Now, so I'll go ahead and deliver my spiel since I was partially right on my pundit pick, and I'll tell you some, the only thing that really surprised me, and then I'll go around to each of the pundits and we'll kind of get your reaction and really kind of talk about what surprised you in this fight and why you think that we had the result that we saw this morning. So for me, I truly think, and I think the pundits agree that I really think that Inoue is a special fighter. I think that he is underrated in his boxing ability. He's defensively, he's responsible. He has really good, quick, educated feet. He's really a classic boxer in that he works behind the jab. He really looks to break down his opponents. But if he sees any kind of chink in the armor, this guy just unleashes just hellacious combinations. And I had picked a 10th round TKO or KO or stoppage at that time. And this is the only thing that surprised me. And while I think that it happened a little bit sooner, than I had predicted, this is because I believe that Stephen Fulton really showed too much of nothing in this fight. I thought that it would take a couple of rounds. I actually thought he was going to win a few of the rounds, put Inoue on the back foot. But he didn't. He seemed to be the slower fighter. He was tentative. His footwork was everywhere. He had a very wide stance. And the speed seemed to kind of discombobulate.
Speed really bothered him. Speed
really bothered him. Not only that, but even I think his speed of foot was really surprising him, right? So he was like, Boston brought it up in the earlier segment. The people underestimate how quickly Inoue can close that distance, and I think that really surprised Fulton, and particularly that stabbing jab to the midsection, a la Floyd Mayweather. And then so what Floyd would do was that he would stab with that jab, and then a lot of times he would turn that jab into a leaping hook, or he would feint the jab and then come over with a with the straight right. What Inoue did in this fight where he hurt him was that he followed up that jab with a very, very strong right hand. And really, he was just looking for a bit of an opening. He just wanted to redirect Fulton's eyes away. And then after that, he just seized upon an opportunity. So for me, that was the only thing that really surprised me. I think, what we've seen this before from Inoue. It was just, we haven't seen it from a slick boxer, a la Fulton, who was undefeated. And a lot of people, including pundits on this show, picked to win. But so let's go with Boston Jarrett. Kind of talk about your reaction and what really kind of what was unexpected. Something in this fight.
The one thing that was one of the many things that was unexpected was Fulton's inability to eventually find the range and to time Inoue. Probably the only thing that I got right in my prediction, this pre-fight prediction and my breakdown, was the speed advantage that Inoue would have. But I knew that Inoue was going to be the faster fighter. I didn't think he was going to be that much faster than Fulton, so let me be clear. But I also didn't think that Fulton would be totally, utterly incapable of timing Inoue. And the credit for that goes to Inoue, man. His combination of speed, his own timing, and his power was what totally nullified and neutralized Cool Boy Steph's defense. You saw Rand, thank you. What's it called? What you saw Steph and Fulton early in that fight being able to catch a lot of those punches. Yeah. He did a pretty good job of catching and blocking a lot of the big shots that Inoue was attempting. Inoue was able to establish that jab. He did a pretty good job of establishing the jab early. He was even able to bloody the nose of Fulton early, but Fulton did a pretty good job of stopping Inoue from landing those big hard shots. But what he could not do was catch and shoot, which is what I thought he would be able to pull off earlier. You saw him in the 6th, 7th round eventually be able to start catching shooting. He landed a big right hook, I believe, in the 7th round, which was the one round that I think that I may have given Fulton. And even after he landed that shot, Inoue immediately went to go try to get that shot back. It was just...
Yeah, that was the only round that he actually outlanded Inoue in. Was
the 7th round?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, so to me, and then Coach, we'll have you chime in. So I saw that 7th round, and I thought that, and this is from me, I thought that Inoue almost kind of let Stephen Fulton open up a little bit, right? Almost giving him this kind of false type of security, so that way, to leave Fulton open for some more counters and leaving stuff open, or do you think it was just Fulton just on the front foot a little bit more?
Yeah, you could be right. I thought it was Fulton finally able to find the right timing and the right distance to be able to catch Inoue. Because you saw what Inoue did in response to that was he immediately started to push Fulton back. And this is another thing that I pointed out, I believe, in the last week. Fulton really wants to stand flat-footed and throw and deliver. He can punch off platform, but for a guy who already is an arm puncher, doesn't have a lot of pop, he really, really needs to stand, have both feet on platform and deliver, which is how he was able to catch and shoot in that 7th round. Inoue said, no, we're not letting you do this. And he immediately displaced Fulton. And Fulton was so happy to just give up ground in that fight. He was so happy to get on his bike and be on the perimeter, which I another thing, I believe I pointed this out last week too. I knew that was going to be end badly for him if he found himself on the end of Inoue's punches. So no, I don't think that he Inoue let him land? Because that was a big shot that Fulton landed in the 7th round, and it almost leaned Inoue over. So I don't think he allowed him to do that. But you could be right, because Inoue was having a difficult time landing the big shot. So you could be right. Maybe it was a little cat and mouse gone wrong. Maybe, I don't know. That's an interesting take. That wasn't what I saw, but now that I'm thinking about it, you could be onto something. I don't know.
Yeah, I recall one of Floyd Mayweather. I kind of made the comparison, but I'm trying to think who it was when it comes back to me. But I remember he was fighting somebody, and then they said, the person was starting to throw a few more punches, not really landing them, but open up a little bit more. And they would say, well, it might be just Floyd just kind of allowing them to open up as a way. And this was against Arturo Gatti. In fact, he was like, this might be Floyd just letting him open up, so that way he can just look for some really hard counters, to that effect.
Maybe. I've watched that Gatti fight several times. I didn't think Floyd needed to. Floyd was beating the hell out of him in that fight. I didn't think that this was that type of beating. I don't think it was. I don't think it was Gotti Mayweather-esque.
Yeah, it wasn't that one-sided in the beating, but this was not really a close fight. I thought that
no, it wasn't. This wasn't. To me, it was more Rigo Loma than it was. I
mean, Rigo Donaire. Oh no!
No. This was more Rigo Loma, where Rigo totally shelled up. Rigo found himself unable to land that big left hand of his. Loma too fast, too fresh, too young, too big. Rigo eventually shelled up and just stopped throwing punches and became totally defensive. And eventually Rigo quit on his stool. Whereas in this fight, Inoue was able to set up and land that perfect shot that ultimately
perfect right hand. Yeah, that right hand
ultimately led to the stoppage. Rigo quit before Loma was able to land that big hard shot. Whereas Fulton here kept fighting, and Inoue was able to land that big shot.
All right. So let's bring in Coach. Coach, what about anything that surprised you? And we'll also get your reaction to the outcome of this fight.
Well, man, regarding the outcome, man, look, man, I eat my crow straight, no chaser. You know what I'm saying?
no hot sauce.
No hot sauce on that, man. You know what I'm saying? When you eat that crow, you got to eat it, man. But bro, listen. So in a nutshell, he just beat the brakes off this boy. So what surprised me? Yeah, dude, I do. Anyway, it was fast, bro. And I mean, I knew that, but yeah, that dude was fast, man. What surprised me the most, Fulton did nothing that he should have done other than coming to the ring and get lumped up. He did nothing he should have done but show up so that the boxing match could go on, man. So I just was disappointed, man, with, him. Just, I don't think he was as aggressive with his jab. I think he was just timid. I think he was like what Jared said, on the wrong spot on the end of that thing. I didn't see him trying to force his will on this man. I saw him straightforward, not maybe a little head movement, but he was still kind of straight on that line. Man, you saw Inoue with jab, and he would come off the jab and move and give different angles. I mean, he won't just on the inside slipping. He was coming off of the jab and stepping around and giving different angles and getting right back on that stick with him, man. So, and I think he just in his mind, just out-thought Fulton all the way around the board, and when somebody's stabbing you so much, like to the low, like what they're trying to catch you with. But if every time you stab, I'm bringing my hands down to meet that stab jab instead of imploding and crunching in with, you don't get hit. So he made him look basic, man. He made him look elementary. So honestly, I'm giving it to you straight because I ain't really got a lot to say. He anyway bought that thump. He bought that thump. So anyway, much faster than I thought. Anyway, man, that jab was busy, but the dude was so many angles and moving on Fulton. It was crazy. And I'm telling you, dude was shooting angles off of jabs. That boy was nice, dog. The boy was
almost
nice.
Pacquiao-ish. Almost how you would see Pacquiao. Very similar. Similar style of kung fu as Pacquiao, except he's a lot more judicious. He's a lot more responsible. He's not as reckless. Not as reckless as Pacquiao.
More technical and like this was an educated jab. So, Coach, you be saying, I mean, at jabs at different level, he came out with a stance that I wasn't used to with his left hand low. But one of the things that he was doing during the fight was he was also jabbing from a low level, right? But when he was within distance, though, he was defensively responsible and doing as he usually does. But he also was kind of jabbing up, and I think that kind of fooled Fulton. And one thing you were saying that he got out, thought throughout the fight. I always felt that Fulton was always kind of a move behind, right? If this was a game of chess and stuff like that, like Inoue was about 2 moves ahead when it came to him fighting Fulton.
Yeah, and I think last two back to Fulton real quick, man. That seemed like there was no plan at all behind this guy's jab or approach. Like I saw no.
There was no respect. There was no respect. You're absolutely right, Dave. I'm sorry, but there was no respect. It's like we're gonna come to Japan, we're gonna walk in here, we're just gonna do what we always do, and we're gonna beat that. And look, to be fair, I thought that was gonna be enough too. But there was no backup plan.
There was no plan.
I think it was some respect, but there was a little bit of disrespect that was born out of like overconfidence. Because I thought, but before the bout, before he got in there and saw the speed and how Inoue closed the distance and all those other things, I believe Stephen Fulton, came in there a very, very confident fighter, feeling that he was the better boxer at least, and I thought he felt that he could hurt Inoue, at least put him on attention with his punches.
Man, but that's I think in confidence and arrogance, man.
Yeah. There was some arrogance. Yeah. I agree with that 100%, Coach.
There's no plan in arrogance.
Yeah.
So what was his corner like? We saw if you take the whole fight as a whole, we saw the blueprint getting laid out in round 1. So what was the corner saying, Fulton's corner saying, to change what was happening from the get-go? Because what was laid in the round 1 happened in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was never a change. And at first I was like, well, maybe his game plan was try to tire Inoue out and bring it on in the second half of the fight. But there was no change in it. And every round was the same.
I watched on Sky, so Sky goes to commercial in between rounds. I wasn't able to hear what they were. You able to?
I mean, they weren't in the corner, but they would report on ESPN. But I mean, I don't think there was too much that the corner could have provided to him. What the corner was saying that they wanted him to be a little more active with his jab, which he got out jabbed, I believe almost 2 to 1, maybe 3 to 1 from Inoue, and then they really wanted him to follow behind that jab with his right hand. But like Kajarim, but before we get into it there though, just kind of talk about your reaction and why you felt that your prediction didn't necessarily go the way. Just some of the things that surprised you.
I'll be honest, because I'm just going off Inoue's record. He never fought like what what Fulton was, what I thought what Fulton brought to the table, like a slick, smooth counter-punching fighter that can take. I thought he was going to be able to take Inoue's power since Inoue was moving up, and then be able to be slick. Even though we talked about it last week that Inoue was still going to be faster, but we thought that by this time there was a game plan to either like muddy it up, like try to push him against the ropes and just play bully ball while being slick at the same time. But going into that fight, man, you just showed that there was. I don't see any game plan that he thought he was going to bring into that, man, because he gave up his size immediately. Like it was like the Grinch up in there. Like the further the fight went, the bigger Inoue heart was, and you know what I'm saying. He looked like he was 3 sizes bigger by the time, you know. So I don't understand what Fulton, you know what I'm saying. He played that cool boy to the T because he was too laid back and he thought he was going to counter. I don't know what he thought he was going to do, but it didn't work.
There was no size advantage for one. If I can, real quick, Cam, if I could just,
I thought it was a size advantage.
Man,
not in the ring. It wasn't like standing outside, maybe.
Whatever size disadvantage Inoue had in the upper body, he made up for in his lower body. Because let me tell you something. Let me
absolutely. But okay? That was something that one of the commenters said. You know, like
what did they say?
They said, you know, he's got thin legs. So if you kind of hit him to the
thin legs, Fulton, there are people in wheelchairs that have bigger, stronger legs than Stephen Fulton. And I don't know how I missed that earlier because I don't think anybody pointed that out. This guy has got no legs. And I wanted to get into that, but I go ahead and make your what point were you gonna make, Cam? I'm sorry.
Well, one of the points is that I believe Fulton, and this is something that Coach talked about. I believe Fulton thought that he would be able to counter Inoue, but this is something that what happened. So this was, and now I believe this was in the first or second round. Was Inoue had jabbed him to the midsection. Fulton tried to counter over the top with the right hand. He got out the way a little bit of it, like he caught a little bit of it, but at the same time, he also caught him with the left hook. So it was like, bow, bow, and he came up, and I think that right there, when Fulton got hit with that left hook after, you know, trying to counter, he realized like, wow, this guy, you know, is a lot quicker and probably a little bit, you know, smarter of a fighter than I thought, and I think that really made Fulton hesitant, you know, throughout that match. But that, I think that kind of, once you get counter and you know that he's going to come with the hard counter over his counter, I think that Fulton was left just looking for a lot of answers in there.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Coach, what do you think about Fulton's? He had a very wide stance. Do you think that he was trying to gain some power, get some respect? Or what do you think about that wide stance?
Okay. So this goes back to the whole no plan stuff. I think with that wide stance, man, now go back and watch this fight now, right? But his stance was too wide for him as a fighter. This cat, you know, kind of like the whatever, I think might have been the casual one that said it. This cat thought he was just going to come up in there arrogantly and possibly have his way, you know, come off that little jab and try to drop this big right hand on this guy. If you take a look at that fight, watch how much he tried to, when he did throw that right hand. Anytime you got a man that's throwing that right hand and you're throwing it so hard that your back leg comes forward and it makes you square up, then your stance is too long, or you ain't committing with the jab and you ended up reaching for somebody.
That's a Broner stance. Broner used to have that same problem.
But go back and watch that fight, man, and regardless of what the corner was saying to him, I'm just looking at what this guy was doing. So that's why, you know, and whoever it was, the casual one that said, you know, it just was no change. This dude, let me try to do what I can do, walk this little weak jab in, you know, and instead of being as busy with the jab as Inoue was with his, he tried to just throw this right hand, man. But he had that wide stance. He was reaching for Inoue because he wasn't committing with his jab. bending over, and it would make his back leg, his rear leg come up, and he would just square up. So it just, you know, I don't know what they was thinking, bro. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, it was at one point, man, maybe like in round 5 or something, he tried to throw a right hand, and he threw it so hard and reached so far, and that back leg came up. Inoue almost picked him up on his shoulder. Almost, it seemed like. I don't know if y'all. It's like he.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
there was no plan, man. I'm like, dude, you, what you doing?
Let me show something real quick. So this is, to me, and I was going to write in there, but to me, when I first saw the fight, I mean, when I first saw them, you know, this is what I was seeing, right? I get the guys, you can see that, right? So to me, right, Fulton clearly looks like the bigger fight, at least, you know, waist up, right? His kind of upper body.
Waist
clearly
up.
Like across the shoulders, he's bigger. His arms are thicker, and then he has at least 2, maybe 3 inches in height. So to me, when I remember seeing this, I was like, Fulton is clearly the bigger fighter, you know, at least waist up, at least in the upper body in there.
Well,
do you have a waist down?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Waist down, you mine.
Waist down, it looks totally different. Like it is vastly different, man. It's vastly different.
But yeah, that's
Fulton, man, with those atrophied legs of his, man. Yeah, not that would have helped. I mean, he could have came in with the biggest, strongest legs on planet Earth, and he wasn't going to be. Inoue's a better fighter, right? Inoue's a better fighter, and he proved that. He proved why he's why he arguably might be pound for pound number one fighter in boxing as of right now. To me, he's supplanted Usyk. There's nothing that Usyk is going to do to Daniel Dubois that's going to make me put Usyk over Inoue at this point. So Inoue, to me, has got that number 1 spot on lock, pending the results of this weekend.
Yeah, but so I got one quick, so we can kind of get a look. But you know, you got to realize that Fulton's been fighting with these little legs, you know what I'm saying, for the time being. But as you can kind of see,
look at them like them thick Pacquiao legs.
He's got like, and that's really probably where his power comes from, right? You can see the muscle tone, you know, really strong legs, and then with them, which a lot of black fighters have, you know, a lot of black fighters have thin legs. But remember, Thomas Hitman Hearns had real thin legs, and because of his leverage, this guy was able to create a lot of power. But you can
Tommy Hearns had, like you said, very long arms.
Wilder also has really thin legs.
Exactly.
And he probably going down the fight.
But from a strength and conditioning standpoint, let me make a point about the Wilder thing. Wilder has very, very thin legs. Wilder has the back of a comic book character. One, if you look at Wilder's mass in between his shoulder blades specifically, you look at his lats, you look at his traps, he has a tremendously powerful back. One, he has tentacles for arms. 2, 3, he has massive forearms. And one of the reasons you're able to generate heavy-handedness is through strong forearms, especially for guys who don't have very, very strong legs. You can generate a lot of strength, a lot of leverage with just upper body. You have very, very strong forearms and very, very strong back. Fulton has none of that. And I wanted to ask Dave about that specifically. It kind of brings us a little bit off subject, but I was thinking about this today and talking to guys at work about the fight. Do you think Fulton, coming from that old school, dogmatic Philly boxing school, is he in there with a bunch of these old school guys who are, this is how we train and we don't lift weights? Because it does not look like Stephen Fulton has much of a strength and conditioning. He has all the IQ and the cardio. He runs. He's got the high IQ, a lot of skill. This guy does not look like he's lifted a weight in his life. And that's a huge assumption. I'm just curious, Dave, of what you think about looking at him from a strength and conditioning standpoint. Is he a victim of just old school, stereotypical boxing training, or what do you think?
Well, I would say just looking at his body, man, and then just seeing some of the fighters that we see out there, you can tell he's not heavy on the weights, you know. That definitely not lower body day anyway. You know that, man. I mean, he just not, bro. So I mean, again, I don't know who or what they're telling them, but I see more so conditioning definitely going on, vice strength, if that makes sense. You know, that's where it's both. It is strength and conditioning, and you know, people can't confuse doing things that might help you in the endurance piece. That's not part of the strength piece. Strength is strength. Strength is strength. You know what I'm saying? And endurance is endurance. And so you know, I don't know how much it would have helped him in this thing, because like I said, man, I mean,
it wouldn't have.
He just looked bad, man. He just looked bad. Wasn't productive and busy, man.
I'm thinking more for Stephen Fulton moving forward. If his plan is to move up, or if it's to hang around and get another shot at those belts, his lack of power is astonishing. I mean, he caught Inoue. The few shots he was able to land, he was able to land. That one shot in the 7th round is a shot that comes to mind. And a guy in Inoue who started his career at 108 pounds was totally, utterly unfazed by that shot that Fulton landed. So I
think he's got a chin. I think he's got an underrated chin. This guy caught some flush punches from Inoue Dominates, and that guy can crack. All right, he got hurt.
Yeah, that's true. He did.
He got hurt.
He was hurt again. He was hurt again.
But he got caught with one right hand that just had him on. But he showed a lot of composure, and I just didn't think that Fulton had anything that would trouble him. But at the same time, I still thought he had a healthy amount of respect for Fulton's power, which is why he didn't necessarily. He got caught with the right hand, but it was on the kind of it was flush. It was on the way out, but he didn't get caught coming in, just kind of totally abandoning his defense. All right, so we want to move on to the next segment, but does anybody have anything that they want to say to kind of close out? Do we want to respond to our international fans who are going to kind of give it to the pundits?
I will say that there were some diehard Inoue fans who have been telling me for months that he was going to beat Fulton. Guys, not just in the comment sections, but guys at work, you know, guys who were diehard Inoue fans that would tell. And I don't know if they were just saying that because they were fans of Inoue, or because they saw something in the stylistically that was, but those guys were wrong, man. Those guys were right. Excuse me. Those guys were right. And they proved me wrong, man. This guy is a generational type of talent. And for all the people out in certain sectors of the internet now who are calling for a Tank Davis.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
So who are calling for Tank Davis to fight this guy? Shut the fuck up and go sit down somewhere, dude. This guy started his career at 108 pounds. He's now a 5-division champ, 122-pound unified.
I think it's 4. I think it's 4.
Oh, sorry.
He gonna end up being 5. So
maybe. Yeah. So yeah, all that Tank shit, man. Just go shut up and sit down somewhere, dude. Like, really. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much time. I know Randy's short on time here.
Anybody else want the same thing before we close out this segment? All right, make sure that you like and subscribe. And we also want to bring attention to a new the pundits are on Instagram. You got footage up there. We're gonna be bringing you some actually we're going live this particular weekend. So make sure that you go. It's under Pundits of Pugilism. Is all spelled out, but you will recognize our logo, which is behind the Casuals Ran head. But we thank you for rocking with us, and we will check you out at the next segment.
Peace.